And we are back. Appreciate y'all for tapping in with us on this lovely edition this Friday on the Doing All Right podcast. I'm in the studio. Mr. Broaddus there is still in Indy. You gonna be there like the whole weekend? You gonna watch all the weekend stuff, or you leaving early?
No, boss man, I'm heading out tonight. I've got my show. I actually did some work with Sean and RJ and Bobby. Matter of fact, we got a chance to talk to Christian Parker, which was cool. And then they're about to have Brian Schottenheimer right next to me as we're doing our show. So this ought to be a lot of fun today. But yeah, I'll be back tonight and look forward to being with everybody in the studio on Monday. I miss you guys.
Okay then. I got some questions about that Christian Parker situation. We're going to get into it a little bit. We got a little bit of audio, got a little breakdown on that. And we also got players that we're going to break down today that we normally do on Fridays. So we got a pretty packed show there. But Brian, I do want to run some things by you. Two things real fast about some of the workouts that happened yesterday. Now, I know how me and you get down. You feel me? I know how me and you operate. But yes, the people may be curious, and some people tweeted me about it. I just want to make a statement, and you let me know if you agree or not, okay? Voch, has Sonny Styles changed on your board at all with this phenomenal workout? And my answer is no. You know, he's still going to be where he's at on my board, on my stack. I knew Sonny Styles ran fast. I knew that he was a freak athlete. Everybody says he's a good processor. I saw that on film and all that, you know what I'm saying? So Sonny Styles didn't necessarily do anything yesterday that I didn't think that he wouldn't do. Like, he jumped really high, and that's cool. He's explosive, but we knew he was explosive. We just didn't know the number associated with it, Brian. I always think film is king. I think film takes up like 80% of the process or whatever. And some of the things that I had problems with watching Sonny Styles on film had nothing to do with his combine workouts yesterday. I was worried about him. Yeah, I was worried about him dealing with blocks and shit and getting caught in trash and all this kind of stuff. Like, if a team super misdirect him, like what will he do? You know, those are some of the things that I kind of saw on tape that I had issue with. But the combine isn't going to show that. So you know. Some other teams may move him up their board because of the workout, but I'm not going to move him on mine because I felt like he was going to do that anyway.
No, and you know, and you're being true to yourself right there too. And it's not stubbornness. This is just part of the process. You know, when I've always believed this. I think that if you talk to evaluators, you know, 75, 80%, maybe 85% of the work that they do is, how does this guy play on the field? And that's the film evaluation. I think you nailed it perfectly. If you're in a situation where, listen, you're watching the Texas game, he's not using his hands, he's not getting over, he's not getting off blocks, he's getting caught trash, he gets misdirected, he's got quickness to get back on the play. I don't think broad jumping, you know, out of the building and high and vertical jumping out of the building and the workout, like I say, it's a big man. We knew he was a really, really good athlete. You could see that on tape, you know, but there are some things that Sonny Styles, you know, is going to have to work on. And there's some things that he worked on during the year. Like I said, you can watch the Texas tape and see some of the issues of him playing with his hands. But by the time we got to that game against Indiana in the Big Ten championship game, was a much better player. So yeah, I think that you have to be true to yourself. You have to be true to the film, the workout, the interviews, the medical, all part of where this guy is going to pick. I think we've been pretty consistent that maybe that Sonny Styles was one of those guys that would probably be, you know, getting mocked to you quite a bit, which he has, but maybe he's a top 8 player. You know, there's a side of me that believed that Dallas was not going to have a chance at Sonny Styles, like, you know, much like they didn't have a chance with a couple of the players they were dealing with last year. You know, the league kind of says, oh, wait a minute. All right, we keep mocking. And, you know, Will McClay even said that. He goes, yeah, we enjoy the mock drafts you guys put out, you know, because of fits and things like that. So I think that, you know, it was an impressive workout, but man, the tape means a lot to me, and how he plays on tape, I think, is the most important thing.
Brian, the other linebackers did a fantastic job yesterday. You know, not just Sonny, but, you know, our Texas Tech linebacker looked good. Our Texas linebacker looked like, you know, I think a lot of guys made up a lot of ground yesterday. But notably, C.J. Allen and Harold Perkins didn't work out. Do you think that they kind of hurt themselves by not showing up?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's a great question, because, you know, the Cowboys were on in talking to people, the Cowboys were on this Harold Perkins train about, meeting with him before his workout in Baton Rouge, taking him to dinner. There's some legitimate, interest there. Guy's a good player. And CJ Allen, there's another one. I admire, and as a former scout, when I used to sit in that old RCA dome, the old Hoosier dome, I really did appreciate every kid that put his hand on the line and worked out. Yeah. I really, really did. That was in my mind. That was something that was always, very important to me. Sonny Styles, Rodriguez, Reese, Lewis from Pittsburgh, Hill from Texas, Galladay from Cincinnati. By the way, Voch, your movement skills that you talk about with Galladay, you look spot on with that. I give you credit for that. But those kids nowadays, they don't go in this spring going forward. They could tell those pro guys that come through there, the scouts, I'll stand on my combine numbers. I'll stand on my combine workout. If those kids never want to work out again, they don't have to work out again because their workouts were that impressive. Yeah. They did it on the world stage, and they saw, we saw what Rodriguez and Styles and Reese and Lewis and Hill and Galladay and all those guys, we saw what they did. So, tip of the cap to them for putting their hand on the line and getting it done.
Bryan, you did a phenomenal job getting Christian Parker to come and talk about his defense a little bit. After y'all talked about shoes and Kobe and Michael Jordan for like 5-10 minutes. Yeah. You did a really good job of getting to the ball and like staying on it. And I think you asked purposeful questions, Bryan. You just didn't hit us with the good old, well, what do you think about Michael Parker? You know what I'm saying? You didn't hit us with like the easy stuff. Like you got real answers out of him, Bryan. And we're gonna let Christian Parker kind of talk about it a little bit. We're gonna run this clip, Bryan, and then we're gonna come back and react to some of what he said. I got a lot of points about what he said, Bryan. So we're gonna run this and then come back and talk about it real fast.
When you're looking at, say, your front seven, you're talking about playing, and you're playing attack. Do you play? Is it downhill with your linebackers, or are they more of a?
Well, they have to play more downhill than flow stacking and tracking the ball. I think when you can play the attack front on the D-line perspective, you can go with quicker, faster guys. They don't have to grind blocks as much. They don't have to hold double teams because they're jetting up the field.
Right.
Which means that your linebackers, there still is an element because they have to play, play action pass. Usually those fronts are associated with true spot drop zone coverage. Okay. You think about like San Francisco, for example, the things that Fred Warner does in space and things like that. But when you do it that way, sometimes with certain run schemes and certain things like that, I just feel like there's a space. So if somebody gets kicked out, then things can wind back. And you have to, like, the resources. Those teams that are really good in that front, you look on the front seven, it's like 3-4 first rounders.
Sure.
Like, you got to pay to play for that.
Sure. And so, like, people I've heard describe and I might be wrong about this, but I want to ask you, and I appreciate your response. You play like a gap and a half. Yeah. So can you explain when they start to talk about gap and a half to you, what does that mean?
So you want to have an attacking mindset in your primary gap. So you want to create knockback in that primary gap, but you're not just finishing up. You just that's your primary. When the ball shows up in another location, then you have a secondary gap.
Right.
So it's primary, secondary, and typically the secondary gap is shared with somebody else's secondary gap. Right, so if I'm an A-gap player and I'm going into the opposite A, then the linebacker's probably a B-gap player that's falling into that A-gap as well. So then that's when you're able to kind of eliminate that space and converge on the football, but you're playing it with your hands. At the second level, obviously, that's those guys being able to work lateral and then punch a hole in the front there. But up front, you want guys to be aggressive because you have to convert to pass rush and everything like that. So when you think about, like, this is when I was in Green Bay with KC, he was the best nose in football, in my opinion, at doing this style because he plays with good length and he has a good anchor. Quinnen Williams, this is how he played at Alabama. This is what Saban does in the mint front and everything else with that. You're getting guys off the ball, but this is how you play the blocks in the run game in terms of just constricting that space and being able to use your hat and hands to arm over and fall back into another gap.
All right, Bryan, cool. So we've been talking about gap and a half for like a couple of weeks now, and Christian Parker kind of broke it down to us, Bryan. And what I got from listening to him, Bryan, you know how like traditional old school two gapping is like I'm at the zero, but I'm responsible for this A gap and that A gap. Mm-hmm. What Christian Parker said that really jumped out to me was that his D linemen are going to have a primary gap and a secondary gap. You feel me? So if I'm going to be shaded to the left side of the center, I got that gap, okay? The linebacker may have the other A gap,
Right.
But in the event that the ball goes in the other A gap, it's my job as a D lineman to abort my A gap and work to the other A gap. Christian Parker used buzzwords like we're going to pinch gaps, we're going to move the line of scrimmage and replace it. You know what I'm saying? He didn't talk in this way of we're going to just flat out attack upfield. That's what the Cowboys did last year. And you would think with some of the personnel that we had that, of course, that wouldn't be the case. I mean, that wouldn't be helpful because Overshown's not a huge guy. Shamar James not a huge guy. So if everybody has a gap, this is last year, Fluce's scheme. If everybody has one gap, there's going to be a time where a guard has to block Overshown one-on-one or block Kenny Clark one-on-one, Kenneth Murray one-on-one, Brian. I don't think that's using your resources the best. What Christian Parker explained, and you can break it down for me after you hear me, Brian, is that Quinnen is responsible for his gap and the other gap that the linebacker has to go to. So we're basically putting two dudes in one gap, basically, Brian. I'm going to line up in one gap, but I'm going to be responsible for two gap, which is traditionally what old school two gapping is, but we're just doing it from a 4-3 alignment, Brian. Did you kind of hear the same thing from Christian Parker?
No, man, I think you did a great job of explaining it. You know, and I wanted Christian to kind of explain it in the best of layman's terms, you know, and we talked about the gap and a half, and it kind of reminds me of the buzzwords we were using last year. We were talking about pin and pull when it came to the offensive line. So, but Christian did a really nice job there of explaining to us where he sees fits and where he's trying to get to. I was very encouraged by, talking about playing up the field. I was worried about his linebackers kind of being in more of that read and react, but no, he's talking about playing with downhill with linebackers too. So, and he even mentioned this, when we had a chance, he was talking about one of the best gap and a half players that he's been around was Kenny Clark. And when he was with him in Green Bay, that his ability to not only take his gap, but if the ball were to break, then get rid of his guy and get back in on the play. And I think you nailed it perfectly. Instead of just one guy playing the gap, you've got guys that are overlapping the gaps. And so that's going to be even better for how you play the run defense, solid across the front, not getting out of place. If somebody gets blocked, well, then you have somebody there that's able to make the play. So, thanks to him, I learned a lot this morning talking to him about, particularly about the way that he looks to see his scheme play up front.
Brian, he noted that Kenny Clark did it in Green Bay a bunch, and that he was one of the best doing it, he would say, and that Quinnen Williams also has experience doing it. Brian, how do you think Osa kind of fits into that conversation? Because he ain't mentioned Osa at all, and Osa.
No, he really didn't. He really didn't, and maybe that's why with Osa, we've kind of talked to him a little bit. Maybe that he's due for some 4-eye stuff, when they're playing in the inside of the tackle. Maybe that's something that, we'll see a little bit more from him. But we've also seen this group interview a lot of these guys who are defensive tackles. And everybody's kind of wondering they've got all these defensive tackles, what already on the roster? Why are they looking at, we kind of thought maybe they were looking for some more edges out of that. And I mean, edges of bigger body guys that could play, not so much maybe rush guys, but bigger body guys that could play the point of attack. And maybe they were looking at some of these defensive tackles as guys that maybe they're playing the 1s and the 3s in a 4-3 alignment. Well, maybe you play them a little wider and play them in that 4-eye stuff. So they're clearly hunting players. Another question I asked him was, are there players at this current that he's studying here at in Indianapolis that could absolutely help him get to where he needs to be? He said, yes. There's guys that fit, my eye, how I'm looking at them. So that to me was encouraging with Dallas holding pick 12 and pick 20 as well.
I don't think Christian Parker is going to waver at all on the smart football player. Like we kind of mentioned
not at all. We kind of mentioned it in passing yesterday, Brian, but he put a ton more context on it today. What do you say? We don't want to be a YMCA basketball team.
You know
we don't want to.
saying?
We don't want to be a YMCA basketball team playing at the Whataburger.
Playing
in the parking lot.
So, there is balance though, Brian. He doesn't want the super smart, but we're not athletic players. But he doesn't want height, weight, speed guys. Is what he said. He wants you to be able to process, right? So as we're going down our boards, Brian, and we're trying to make these players make sense for the Cowboys, man, Brian, should we start to eliminate some of the YMCA guys? Should we start to eliminate the height, weight, speed guys that we don't think highly of as processors? And also, Brian, since he talked about scheme and how the linebackers are going to be working and attacking, Brian, should we eliminate some of these guys, these linebackers that maybe can't shed blocks very well? We talked about our linebacker from Pittsburgh had a really good day. He did. If you're looking at Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh, Brian, in this scheme, he may have to play safety. There may not be a linebacker role for him in this room because he has to be able to disengage blockers. Did you kind of get the same feel?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that's very important. The names that he kept bringing up, he was adamant, that he's got that nickel corner he had in Philadelphia. That was the way that Cooper DeJean plays. You talk about, he's like, listen, you talk about smart, you talk about understand the scheme, you talk about being at the right place, you talk about communicating. He's looking for that type of players. There's no question. If your problem is football IQ, then you're not going to be playing defense for him. It's just not going to happen. So he clearly has an understanding of what he wants, but man, he saw some guys working out, and we all saw some guys yesterday that can clearly fit. And so if you're a shedder and you're a guy that looks like to me that you're picking things up, and we just have to kind of dig in. If you're a guy that's not making a lot of mistakes and you're getting to the ball and being able to finish, then I could see you being on this defense the way that he described what he's trying to do.
Zach, I want you to put us in the 2 box and leave us there. I'm going to take my glasses off. Brian, I'm going to make a statement, and I want you to react to it, okay? I'm going to look you right in the eye when I say this.
Sure.
Christian Parker is prioritizing a linebacker that can diagnose, step up in the run, shed a little bit, and also smart moving backwards. Brian, if you had to guess, would you say that Christian Parker would use C.J. Allen in this defense better than he would use Sonny Styles?
I think to me that he would probably that would make a lot of sense for him. So I know there's some things with Hill that are really, really, really good. But I there's some things also I said Hill, I meant Allen. Excuse me. But I mean, personally, I like Hill better myself. But man, when you start to talk about Allen,
smarts and shedding blocks, like nobody's doing it better.
Smart and shedding blocks. I mean, line in my reports is does a fine job reading his key. Will play downhill, can square up ball carrier, position to make tackle, great sideline to sideline ability. I know we always kind of talk about that. Can run to the ball, run from the backside, shows acceleration. The problem is with Allen is how much coverage do you really want to put him in? Do you want to put him in coverage with backs and athletic targets and things like that? That's a little bit of some questions there. But I will say this: when you start to talk about the athletic ability, you start to talk about the smarts. You start to talk about reading keys. Man, this kid fits the bill for him in that way, C.J. Allen.
Man, Bryan Broaddus, we was watching some players, man. Got some players to talk about today. Got a running back, a safety, a linebacker that'll probably fit Christian Parker's scheme a little bit too, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
And you got a corner. This is an interesting little group there, Brian. This is a fascinating group. And I really want to know what you think about a couple of these guys. Out of this group, Kaytron Allen, running back from Penn State, Michael Taffe, safety from Texas, Keyshawn Allen, linebacker from Arizona State, and Malik Muhammad, cornerback from Texas. Bryan, who are your two best players in this group?
I thought the first two players that you named were the two best players myself.
Okay. Bryan, let me break down Kaytron Allen for him then. Let me get my board pulled up, Bryan. Boy, Penn State just has an embarrassment of riches of running back, don't they, Bryan? I don't know what the hell
they do.
What's going on with them boys. But Bryan, the first thing that you notice about Kaytron Allen is the lower body push.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's a tough runner, Bryan. And look, this class, once again, you can start off with an archetype, man. You either a guy that run away from people or you a guy that runs through people. Just to kind of kick off the archetype, man, Kaytron Allen is a run through you guy, tough runner, tackle breaker. What I thought was interesting about him, Bryan, is he has this patience about him. And he always like plants his foot and then he goes, right? He doesn't have a bunch of east and west to him, but he does skate until he finds where he wants to go, plants his foot, and then he north and south all the way, Bryan Broaddus. So I did notice that about him. And I think that's how he's going to be in the league. You know, I don't think he's going to develop any kind of shiftiness to him. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to try to make anybody miss or create room. I think his thing is to run through people, Bryan. I thought he was a solid pass blocker. I don't think he was incredibly consistent because some pass blocking I saw, he was like, all right, dude, that's what you're supposed to do. And other plays, I'm like, man, come on, dog. You just did it great 5 plays ago. You know what I mean? Why would you resort to doing this right now? Just like some of these other guys, Bryan, I think, he's not like a super receiver guy where he's lining out wide, but they'll throw the ball to him and he'll catch it and run a little bit. But I don't know if he's going to be a super threat in the passing game or anything like that, Bryan. But as a runner, I think that he's like a bell cow type dude that can take a lot of carries, take a lot of punishment, and give some back. Bryan, I think he was a dude that got better the more the game went on. He kind of wore defenses down a little bit. Great patience and all that. And then towards the end of some of those games, you saw him break like bigger runs. He got caught, but he did break some of those runs there, Bryan. And I saw him versus Ohio State, man, and they look like they had a hard time dealing with him, Bryan. So I got him in the 4s though, Bryan. But he is a player that I like just as running back, not being complete kind of pushes him down the list a little bit,
Yeah, I had him in the group down there with Claiborne and McGowan.
Yeah,
is where I had him. I had him more in the 5th. And when you watch him, I thought this was a guy that has, as I read my notes, productive with good size and vision. I thought he had below average explosiveness with him. I think the patience you mentioned was good. I think that you talk about the feel for when he was able to cut off blocks. I think there's some strength to run through the arm tackles. You mentioned that. It's the lack of burst. I think it kind of limits what he can really, really, really do. And see, I look at this guy. I don't see him being like that complete back. I don't think he's a guy that you mentioned about picking up the blitz. It was like sometimes it was a little bit here and there. The thing about him is, though, with him not picking up the blitzes, the catching or lack of consistently, but he lacks that burst in that explosive way. I mean, the toughness I think is really, really, really good, but I have some questions about the overall player. So that's why I put him in the 5th below the guys. I think he's kind of a one-cut runner. And he could run with the power, but I didn't see a guy that I wanted. I was willing to put that third or fourth round grade on him, with the other guys I think that have a little bit more complete traits to them.
All these running backs can end up going anywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they really could.
But they're all going to get bunched up in that similar group because, Bryan, they all kind of got that same trait to them. If you're a physical dude, or if you're like a speedy guy, but you can't block or catch the ball, they're all going to end up in that lower range. So it's going to be a little difficult to differentiate them. Right. It's just like these lower rounded running backs, they're really like ice cream, like you say. You know what I'm saying? It's just whichever guy you like the most. You feel me?
What flavor you want? Yeah, what flavor you want.
Now, Bryan, you said Michael Taffe is the other best player out of this group that we watched.
Well, not today. Best. I didn't say best. I was saying I felt like. Oh no, I'm sorry. The first 2 that you named. Did you say give me your list again?
Allen, Taffe, Keyshawn Elliott, and Malik Muhammad.
Okay, these two that we're doing. My apologies. Okay. I was sitting there thinking, why are we doing this player first? But I don't. I'm like, man, I got confused. I don't know. I listen. Him and Taft of the guys we've done, I think they're near the bottom two of the ones. My apologies on that. I was thinking, I thought I liked the first two that you mentioned, but you mentioned them as the first two. Okay. And I said that. So my apologies. So
you like Keyshawn Elliott and Muhammad better. I agree.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I'm sorry. That's on me. I got too much going on in my head here. So,
Bryan, yeah, I thought we was about to have a creative discussion about Michael Taffe, Bryan. Both the Allen and Taffe are like 5th round players to me. The other two guys I like much better. My apologies. I was going, God, why is he asking me about this guy first? Because I thought that maybe you like these guys better, but you obviously don't. So. Yeah, Taffe is a strong.
When we get in the studio together again, I won't have that problem. I was like, well, man, what is he asking me about these guys off the jump?
Boy, look, Bryan, Taffe gonna be real good on like kickoff or something, but
he will be. He will be.
Bryan, break him down for us. Michael Taffe, and then we'll talk about the two players that we do like.
My apologies on that, man. I sent you down the wrong path there for sure. With Michael Taffe, as I get to my notes. This guy was a former walk-on at the University of Texas. He's a 5th-year senior, played over 53 games. So that experience is incredible. He's made 36 of those starts. So he's got a good feel for how to play this game. And the coaches at Texas really, really relied on him a lot. He's quick to read. He's quick to trigger. He's going to try, like in a contest short routes, things in front of him. He plays like as a split safety. He plays a little robber. You could see him all underneath. The football IQ is there. He is undersized, I think, at 5'11", a little bit for that. I don't see a guy that plays with a lot of range. He doesn't have the over-the-top speed. He can't carry vertical threats. The crossing route stuff, I talked about driving on that. There's some decent timing with that, with the strike and tackle. He's had 7 interceptions in 3 years. The ball kind of bounces his direction sometimes, but he's really more like a very productive special teams player. I just don't know how much, if this guy could be a long-term starter. When you look at how he plays, I just don't think there's a lot of cover ability to his game. And I think he lacks the top end speed and the range. And I just think about him. He can make some tackles, but I don't think that's like his strong suit when it comes to making a lot of physical tackles. So I have him in the 5th round. I think he's going to probably play with somebody initially as special teams. And then if he has to be an emergency starter, then that might be the case. But I put him in the 5th round.
He's a 5 for me, Bryan, but he might end up being in my extras. I think mentally his best position is free safety because you could tell that he's smart enough to do it. But his body lets him down, man. His body lets him down a lot. He's not athletic enough to get over to some of these places, whether he sees it or not. But he has the size to play corner, but he doesn't have like the athleticism to do it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, right. Man, Taffe. Look, shouts out to Taffe, man. He's gonna be down to my. He might be my first extra. More safety start coming in, Bryan, but I don't have a great report for him. So we just gonna go ahead and move on there, man. I'll tell you what, though, Bryan. Let me tell you something about this. Boy, look at that watch on screen. That's nice. Bryan, Keyshawn Elliott from Arizona State.
Now we're talking.
He could play some ball, can't he?
He can. He absolutely can.
Bryan, we just talked about Christian Parker and wanting these linebackers that's smart and able to kind of shed and deal with blocks or whatever, Bryan.
Yeah.
At some point, Bryan, we need to have this conversation too. I know it's really popular and it gets a lot of views to talk about 12 and 20, but just based on how we're segment of film that we're watching right now, the process that we're in right now, we're getting into the day 3 stuff. And the Cowboys have day 3 picks, Brian.
Right.
They got a 4, 2 5s, a couple 6s, and a couple 7s or whatever, Brian. So it's about time that we start to point out, all right, once we get past 12 and 20, what does 114 look like? What does 150 look like? It's about that time. I think Keyshawn Elliott, if you don't get linebacker early, Brian, I think Keyshawn Elliott is a guy that could fit a cool little role for you. I think in the run game, Brian, he sees it. And that's something I love in my linebackers, man. I got to see that you see it first, and he see, hey, who's this man bumping into you? Who finna bump into you, Brian? This damn boy.
That was RJ Choppy.
Okay,
RJ Choppy was, the table over, yeah. See,
Brian,
he's going to poke his head and watch this. Watch Lombardi. He can't hear you, though. He can't.
What's up?
He's saying, what's up? What's
you know
up?
what I'm saying? But Brian, Keyshawn Elliott sees it so well. He has a really good feel about how much leverage he needs to like beat a blocker, like whether he needs to slip up under him. I've seen him stack up on blockers before. I've seen him outrun blockers to their landmark or whatever and come up and make some damn plays in the run game. I've seen him make tackles with blockers draped on him. He's like a D lineman playing linebacker for you a little bit, Brian. And I like that a bunch. I love the physical nature of him. So if you miss out on the CJ Allens of the world, this is a guy that could do it for you. Let me get to my report. I was just off the top of the head.
Off the cuff, off the rip.
You know what I'm saying? Trying to do it. But that's his big game though. Also too, Brian, I would see him walk him down at edge sometimes, and I'll see him get some really good pass rush. I think he got 3 sacks last year or something like that.
Yep.
3 sacks and 7 pressures or something like that. And he's like productive, and he's bending and getting around or whatever. So if you have like a coach that's that can use versatility, creative enough to do it, I think it'll work. Why can't I find my report, man? I'm up here chatting about him, but I can't find my maybe I didn't put him down. Oh, there we go. Keyshawn Elliott, my bad. Stud versus the run. Diagnosis well. Deals with trash. I love how he deals with trash, Brian. Like just miscellaneous blockers will try to come up and blindside him or whatever. He knows exactly what to do with him, and he be thumping folk. I think he has such a punch, Brian, when he's engaging. That's what made me feel like he's a D lineman for real, because you see necks fly back, Brian, when he's punching people. I think what's gonna get him in trouble, if he's not in run defense and if he's not pass blocking, I don't think he's the most athletic in the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as he's square and he can kind of see everything in front of him, he's good. If he got to turn his hips and go backwards and like cover somebody, I think he's going to be in deep shit covering people. So I think coaches have to put him in safe positions on passing downs or just like pass rush him or whatever. Athleticism could be an issue, but as long as you're not asking him to man cover Christian McCaffrey, I think you'll be good to go. I got him in the 4s though, Brian. Kind of in the early 4s. I got him after Torrey and York though, because I think York is a much better cover guy, but I think Elliott is much better versus blockers in the run game versus York. So this could be a preference thing. And if it's up to me, he might be higher than York. What you got?
I actually put him in the 3rd.
Okay,
is what I did.
I don't hate it at all, Brian. He's nice. Yeah.
I put him in the 3rd, and I I'm kind of struggling with these guys, in that round, and I mean this in a good way, because I'm trying to find these guys that you're talking about that has that ability, and I think this guy is, when you watch him play, and I think you did a good job of painting the picture, but this guy's he's strong. I think he's. You talk about athletic ability. I think he's sufficient as an athlete. The burst, the downhill, solid overall lateral movement. I think the acceleration. I think he can play the run defense. I think he's really, really, really good with this kid. Scraping over the top, locates the ball, hands, eyes, positioning. I mean, he is one of those guys that, like, you watch him move and he's beating blockers to the spot in order to make these plays. He stacks, he sheds, he plays with a really good base. He's active. He keeps himself clean. He's a tackling machine. I mean, you could watch him, nose for the football, wrap up, physicality, excellent play strength. I mean, he'll hit you. So I see a guy with a really high IQ, the way he reads it. You can maybe line him up in a couple of different spots. You're right. I don't think you want him in a bunch of coverage stuff, but man, he's ultra competitive. He never stops hustling. Man, I really like this guy as a run defender. And if you can develop a little bit as a pass defender, I think that would be pretty good. You'd have a pretty good player for him. But man, he's fun to watch just because the number of plays that he's able to make because of his length and all that.
Bryan, why don't you run down our last guy, our corner from Texas, Malik Muhammad, with the bad technique and the really good athleticism.
Yeah, say hello to Coach Schottenheimer behind me here, if you would.
What's happening, Coach?
See him back
Coach don't hear. Coach don't hear me. It's all good. Coach know me though. Coach know me though. Shouts out to Coach.
Yeah, shout out to Coach. So yeah, we are. Let me get to this cornerback here with Muhammad.
With the real good
I'll tell you what.
And the bad.
Yeah,
what you think?
Yeah, I like Muhammad, and he might not be the most physical, like a big guy. Mm-hmm. He's going to struggle a little bit, with the weight, and then he's 5'11", but he's 183, and he is from Dallas, Texas. He went to South Oak Cliff High School, their championship high school football program. His frame is going to bother some people. He can man up and press. He can play. You can match him with guys in coverage. He could shadow. He's really got vision. He's one of those guys that he kind of sees what's happening to him, and then he's able to react that way. He does have a little bit of an issue when it comes to dealing with bigger receivers.
Yeah.
If you could watch the Ohio State game, him dealing with Smith, it's a little bit of a problem. Smith's a problem for a lot of folks. Excuse me a second here.
Yep. Smith is a problem for a lot of people, and Malik.
Yeah,
Muhammad,
but he's a
little small. He's a little small. Yeah.
He's a little small, and so the play strength is going to be a little bit of a problem for him. But the field vision and all those things, I think, are really, really good. Like I say, the reading, all that stuff is positive. I think he does a good job of attacking the ball, trying to high point the ball. When he does those things, I think he's in pretty good shape.
Yeah, man, for sure. Go ahead, drink your water there, bro. Drink your water. Here we go. I didn't think that he was super technical, Bryan, but I think his.
Sorry about that. I was struggling there for a moment,
man.
He's getting choked up about the guy, but
his athleticism bailed him out of a lot of weird situations that he put himself in. I thought he had some really good ability to plant his feet and drive on the football, Bryan. I thought he had some loose hips, quick feet, and you could see speed in him. I saw the speed most when somebody would run past him and he would recover really well. But those dudes got past him because he would step wide or he'll turn his back to the receiver, run the loop or something like that. Kind of handsy in press coverage a little bit.
Right.
But, some teams will let you get away with that, but I think that's something that can kind of be coached out of him, Bryan. But I thought he was really good in zone. He's good in man, but when it's in zone, he gets to see it and drive forward. I think his best trait is seeing it and driving forward because he really explodes out of that drive, though, Bryan. His technical flaws show up down the field a little bit, but like I said, what is coaching for? And if you're athletic enough to not put yourself in that position, then the coaching will eventually catch up to him. And I think he had a tough time finding the football too, but that goes along with the technical side of things. But as far as being a sticky athletic corner, I think he had it, Bryan. But I think the biggest knock on him is going to be the frame. Going to be the
frame is going to be a problem. The frame at 5'11", 183 is going to be a problem. Yeah. Where did you end up putting him on your board?
I got a high 4 on him.
Yeah, I stuck him. I got to figure out that group again. I put him in that group with Neal and Everett, Igminosa, Lee. He's kind of if you had to stack, I think you got Igminosa, you got him higher. Then would you have Muhammad, then Lee, or how would you stack those three?
So all those guys that you mentioned, I'm gonna start at my third. Okay, my third round. So Moore from Florida.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Rivers from Duke.
Okay.
Everett from Georgia. Then I got Stooks.
Okay.
And then I got our kid from Ohio State, Imagn.
Okay.
And my 4th round guys, I got it Pons, Muhammad, Lee, then Neal.
So you're taking the smaller, shorter corners and you're knocking them down around, aren't you, right now?
If
is what
you're
doing?
short and you don't have the athleticism, you naturally kind of get bumped down the board a little bit. Yep.
Okay. Well, hopefully the guys like Pons. I don't know if Pons is. Someone was saying that he might not work out. I don't know. I need to check that. But Rivers, Pons, I'm hopeful, man. I'm hopeful those guys that we get some times, we get some workouts, all those kinds of things I think would be really cool. I got those guys a lot higher than you do. But I've got, what I'm looking at right now, Muhammad, I got Imagn in that 4th. Lee is in the 4th. Mm-hmm. And then Muhammad is behind those guys. But I totally agree with you about the frame of the player.
The reason I didn't bump Rivers down, though, because, Rivers is a smaller guy, too. But Rivers plays so much more physically, like, for his size. You know what I mean?
Sure,
So that made me not want to move him a little bit. Pons and Muhammad, you can see their size become an issue. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't see that issue for Rivers. Like, he's thumping people at his smaller stature. So that's why I didn't move Rivers down. And even though Lee from A&M and Neal from Arkansas, even though they're bigger than Pons and Muhammad, I just think that Pons and Muhammad are just better corners than them. So that's why I have Pons and Muhammad over Lee and Neal.
Okay, let me ask you this about with Lee. Mm-hmm. Okay, rank them then, stack Neal, Everett, and Lee then. I'm sorry, if you could do that for me.
I got Everett first. I got a 3 on him because he's tall and can run, and he got some good coverage ability. So I got a 3rd on Everett, him first, and I got Lee after that, and then I got Neal after that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Neal is my last corner right now. Tall and long and disruptive at the line of scrimmage, probably going to be a cover 3 guy. Kind of stiff, and like stiffness did it for me with Neal, why I keep pushing him down.
What am I missing in Imagn? What am I missing?
What I like about, because I think he plays so many spots, I think he's missing nuance at those spots. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
To where if he played one position, I think he would get better at it. He had a really good answer yesterday on the podium where he gave up big plays. He was in good position. He just didn't finish those plays better. Right. So and I think that's cool because, all right, cool, you're in the right spot. You just got to finish it a little better. He doesn't find the football. That's fair. But I'll take a dude that's always in the right spot. And he's a dude that's played outside, that plays nickel really well, and did some safety stuff here or there, and decent in the run game, very aggressive. I don't mind you not liking him as much as I do because you may have a better vision for him than I do. You know what I'm saying? But in my mind, if you leave him at nickel, you may be evaluating him as as a outside corner. I evaluate him as a nickel guy, and if he's a pure nickel guy, and you can cut some of that outside corner tendencies out on him, I think he'll be a really good day 2 nickel dude for you.
Well, I tell you what, I appreciate the heads up on that. Hey, I got to run here, man. I'm sitting here at the Seahawks table, and the folks have shown up for me. So. Gotta move on.
I'll wrap up. Ain't no problem. We got it in though, but appreciate you, Mr. Broaddus.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
No problem. We're gonna get Bryan back in studio on Monday, so y'all be sure that y'all tap in with us on that. Hey, where do you find anything? It's on crownglobalmedia.com. That's where you can find all the good stuff there. And we'll have some more players and some more combine and some more news that happened over the weekend on Monday. We love y'all to pieces. He's Crown Global Media on Twitter. I'm Voch Lombardi. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.